Yes. So this will be our ice rescue refresher 2025. We haven't done this in several years. So the main reason why we're doing this, Dom and I, every 3 years have to recert by teaching. So this is year 3 since we took our class in Colorado. And so we have to get this out. And we have several members, I believe, who have not been through the PowerPoint, some of the newer guys, but especially the skills. So we'll do the skills here. Sounds like next month, if ice permitting. Sounds like Captain Connolly talked to the Dino House owner, and we're waiting for duck season to end so we could use his ponds. That's where we're at. So we'll go through the PowerPoint. We'll watch some YouTube videos. We'll go over East Fork's policy and updates that are going to be happening to that. And then we'll be demonstrating donning our new Mustang suits, and then using the board and fins. So just brief overview of all that. So, ice rescue incidents still happening, but very low frequency for us. Still considered a high risk, but with our equipment that we have now, we as the rescuers are pretty safe, especially since we're not doing anything in swift water. Remember, this is all still water stuff, and the Carson River, East Fork River here doesn't really freeze over, maybe some spots on the shore. So we are not really too concerned about that. So remember, this is ice rescue on anything, but not including swift water. So if it's swift water related, we're out. We are not doing that. So some goals and objectives: potential ice rescue scene, evaluate victim's condition, plan and execute the ice rescue for the maximum safety. And we don't have any handouts for you guys, but we'll just be utilizing the PowerPoint. So while this is a review, but benefits of the ice rescue training: increases safety, increases our success rate. It's a positive public image to see us out there training. People are seeing us get ready, and decreased liability. So we'll go into some of that a little more in depth. But so evaluating the scene. So we all know what we're getting there, and the captain's getting out, or we've gotten the rescue, whoever's on scene first. And what time of day is it? Are we going to need lighting? What's the conditions? Is it snowing? Is it a nice warm day? I mean, relatively warm for the winter. And how many people are in the water? Did anybody witness it? What is their condition in the water? Just how far out is this? Are we able to reach them with a tool of some sort or a throw bag, or are we going to have to go out and implement a rescue? And then plan, having that contingency plan B. So we'll be going into all that. So like I was talking about, scene conditions, environmental conditions, location, condition of the victims, contact with the bystanders or witnesses, and their time of immersion. Because remember, we have our 3 stages of hypothermia, and that first stage, they'll be able to assist. They should be able to assist. And then stage 2, stage 3, once they start getting into the moderate and severe, they will be of no assistance to us. So it's going to be all on us. So their level of consciousness, their ability to respond and assist with the rescue, and other injuries. How, did they fall and whack their head before they went in the water? Did they ride a snowmobile and crash into the lake? How did they get in there? There's other factors we got to consider. Did a car go off the edge and go into the pond? So things like that to consider, and prevention of further injury, obviously. So our PPE, number of responders, we're going to get on a ice rescue, confirmed ice rescue. We're getting 2 engines. We're getting 2 rescues. We're getting a TC and a PC. Our policy is being updated right now. I just spoke to Gerald last week about it. He's going to be the head guy for anything water rescue related. And Chief Brawley's overseeing that side of things, but that'll be his special operations. But there's going to be some minor adjustments to our procedure. In our procedure, it talks a lot about the stern suit, which we no longer have the sterns. We have the new the Mustang suits. And it also talks about on a priority one ice rescue that there's going to be a volunteer engine joining us for assistance, which that'll be removed from the language as well. So developing an operational plan, keep it safe and simple, have a backup plan, contingency plan, and a backup to the backup and the what if game. So real quick, let's just talk about, in the room here, we were talking about locations of our ice rescue equipment on our apparatus. In the last 8 days, I've worked 7 of the 8, and that 4, 12, 14, 7, and I think all the engines have their ice rescue gear in different locations. So obviously that's kind of an issue. Remember, we need to go through the engineer work group to change stuff. But I'm going to be making some recommendations after talking with Merlino and some other people about maybe where we could put things. We decided, like I said, this has to go through the apparatus committee, but we decided maybe putting the gear behind the irons and the hand tools on the captain's side in that compartment. We can put the ice rescue board and rope and gear in there when the daily check for the brush truck ceases. So October to April is the brush truck season. So once it comes winter, October 31st, I believe, is when we stop dailies on the brush truck and we move to weeklies. That's when we would move the gear into that compartment and then move the wildland packs that are in there, the progressive packs, back up to the top. So I don't know. That's just a suggestion I have. I've ran it by a few people. I feel like the consensus is that would work, but like I said, we have to go through the engineer work group on that. So if you guys have any ideas or suggestions, go ahead and reach out to me or Merlino, and we'll get that implemented. But going back to this, so our safety is always number one, no matter what we're doing. We all know that. Be prepared to stop the operations if there's severe safety threat to our personnel, and communicate the changes. The assessment of a rescue scene operational plan is not static, but it's always a dynamic. That's just like anything we do. So taking the time to conduct that proper scene evaluation will give you the greatest chance to make your operational and operation success. So, these are the things we all got to think about as like you're going into Mitch Pond, getting through that gate over there on the north end, getting that rescue nice and close instead of parking out in the parking lot. Because there's several factors you got to consider with the victim's condition. How long were they outside before the submersion in the water? Are they already in that subacute phase of hypothermia just because they've been in the elements for a long time? They were playing outside for several hours before they submerged, if they have a submersion? Or is it an acute thing where they just walked out of their house, they're walking out there, then all of a sudden they take a plunge? So a factor to consider, how long have they been in the water? What's their condition? All that. So, obviously we need that rescue nice and close. We need the heaters blasted, just things to prepare. So if you're not involved in the ice rescue itself, something to consider, have that secondary rescue. If there's only one victim, that second rescue who's not immediately assisting with the ropes or the rescue itself, get in the back of that rescue, start preparing fluids, start preparing the heater, blankets, and all that stuff, because as we all know, hypothermia will be our next biggest threat after we get them out of the water. So let's talk a little bit about ice. So water becomes isothermal at 39.2. So ice begins to form at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and the environmental temperatures. It'll start on the surface, and it'll slowly start spreading out. So at 39.2, it begins to form essentially. So that cold water is on the surface, and cold water will drop down to the bottom, and the warmer water will rise up. So it's just that mixing of water, and then at 32 degrees, it'll become still, and the isothermal process will be complete, and that's when it'll start freezing, starting at the surface, spreading out, and moving down. So the ice sheet grows from below. Ice is 9% less dense than the water. So what it means is the sheet grows from below. It's just that mixing, and then that stops. So it's freezing from the bottom up. But and it's from the bottom up because kind of self-explanatory there. So the types of ice we have in our area is going to be more of the lake and clear ice and snow ice. We'll do a very brief overview of all the other types of ice, but the ones we're going to see in our region, lake clear and snow. We might see a little bit of the river or the frazzle ice, but on our shores of the quote unquote rivers around here. But, yeah, the lake ice a few years back. For those of you who were here, who've been here for several years, we went up the Blue Lakes or wherever that was, and we did training up there. We were considering doing that this year, but it's not realistic for our conditions down here in the valley. We had to cut 12 inches of ice, and it's great, but we'll never be doing that here in the valley. So we always want to train at Mitch Pond or any of the ponds or anything or something like that around here, because what's going to be realistic. And the thinner ice that we have down here is actually going to be the most difficult to perform a rescue in. So kindled ice.
Hey, Rylan, we got a question here at 7.
What depth is considered safe ice to walk on? What depth of ice in inches?
So 2 inches is safe for one individual to walk on. I have that right here. Stand by. I think we go into it, but 2 inches is safe for one person. 4 inches is one person fishing or a group walking. 5 inches is a snowmobile. 8 inches a car. 10 to 12 is a light truck. It also says don't ever judge ice by its thickness, but it also tells us that 2 inches a person can walk on. So that's a pretty safe rule to go by, but there's so many different factors that contribute to that. Whether there's waterfowl, there's feces in the water, bacteria in the water, if there's vegetation that's poking out of the water, all that conducting of heat, whether there's it's been warmer and the ice is weakened, and then we get a big snow, and the snow is just covering the surface, so it looks thick, but it's actually very weak ice with snow on top. There's so many different things. So, but that's the general rule. 2 inches can hold an individual. I believe it is 200 pounds, typically. So here, never judge the ice by its strength, or judge ice strength by its thickness alone. So there's a formula for it if you care, but it's not like we're going to be doing this formula when we're going out there. So here it is. So here what we were talking about, vegetation poking out. It's going to be weak in those areas. So this is why, this is a big contributing factor to a kid going in, stepping out onto the pond or whatever it is, to go throw rocks or just go mess around. And that shoreline is going to be our most dangerous area typically, just because the vegetation popping through, that's conducting the heat to the ice around it. It might look strong, but you know, you put a little bit of weight on it and it's going to go through. Same thing, piers. I think at Glenbrook on this, we don't really have any of these down here, but you can just see snow-covered ice out there, right? And just around that pier is very weak ice. It's almost slush. So something you look at and you're like, yeah, I'm not walking on that. Cracks are very dangerous. These are especially dangerous in swift water situations, rivers, all that. And they say if you see a 90-degree crack, that's the most dangerous point, and that's absolutely avoid that at all costs, just because that's where it's going to give first. But yeah, cracks are dangerous, and especially the swift water, because you know those cracks, especially that image on the left, it's a fairly large gap, and if you were to go in there, moving water, we actually have a video of it of a firefighter fatality in Canada during a training, and the ice comes together, will crush you. Open channels, see, like, yeah, doesn't really pertain to us much, but the swift water is going to be by far the most dangerous. Luckily, we're not really dealing with that. Waterfowl, just their droppings. Ice will be weak in that area. So, you know, if all of the geese and ducks and all that are congregated in the middle of the pond, and it's all frozen over. If there's a bunch of birds around there, you can bet that the ice is going to be much weaker where the birds are hanging out, because they're just crapping away and weakening it in that area. So currents and rivers. Snow on the ice, we talked about that, how that can be deceiving and dangerous. That snow is going to insulate that ice, but it could also give you a false reading on it. Shore melt, we all see that. This is just really, we see a lot of this, especially at Mitch Pond and our ponds around here once it starts warming up. But this is tough. This is what makes performing our rescue very difficult, because you got these big chunks sometimes, and you're going through open water, and then you're getting onto an ice ledge to try to get out to the victim. So it's very realistic for us, but a challenging aspect of it. So yeah, you know, just something to do, especially officers. Just in your area, think of your target hazards that you have in your response area. You know, 12. When I was working with Denny up at 12, going to Silver City RV Park, something we didn't know. In the very back of Silver City, there's a little pond out there, and some lady came by one day when we were on call there, and she's like, "Oh yeah, there's kids out there on the ice. I see them every day playing out there." So we're like, "Oh, we didn't even know that place existed," and it's all fenced in, so the kids are hopping the fence and going out and playing on the ice. So you know, kids will be kids, but just that was one area I didn't even know about. So you know, explore your areas and find out where you have potential and where your best access will be in case something were to happen. So our victim assessment, you know, their level of consciousness, their ability to respond and assist, other injuries, prevention of further injuries. So this is this will determine what stage of hypothermia are they on. Because, you know, you hit 95 degrees, your internal body temperature, you're starting hypothermia. You know, the mild stage, you're going to be shivering. You're going to still be able to use your extremities, but, you know, obviously your dexterity is going to be weak, and but you'll still mentally be there. You'll still be able to shout and assist, you know, to be able to respond. Then you start hitting that moderate to severe phase, and, you know, they're going to be worthless to us. So just things to consider. Here we go. Lowering body core temperature below 95. We all know this. Decreased heat production, heat loss, combination of those. There's the acute and the subacute, which we kind of talked about earlier. Here's what I was just talking about. Like I said, this should all be reviewed. We all know this. But it's good to just be able to anticipate, are they going to be able to assist in this? Are they going to be hysterical? And is there a potential that they could be throwing elbows and trying to cling on to me and push me under? They're going to be in the mild phase, right? You know, it's almost nicer to have them in the severe phase because they're not going to be fighting. You don't have to worry about them coming at you. So, so controlling their ABCs, you know, keeping their head up and gentle handling, you know, to the best of our ability. Most of us have been in the victim situation in the suits in Mitch Pond, and even in our suits and all we have, you know, you start pulling them up out of the water onto the shelf, you know, your ribs take a beating. So it's just something to consider. Yes, you're saving their life, but try not to break all their ribs at the same time if we can. You know, so goes without saying. Drowning considerations, you know, and then at what, you know, at some point, are they going to be on the surface or are they going subsurface? And are we going to need to call the sheriff's office for the dive team to start making a body recovery? So remember, ice rescue, we are only making a rescue if we see them. If they are under the water, it is, you know, it is no longer an ice rescue. They are subsurface, and this will be the dive team. It'll be the dive team coming out. Am I saying if they just were witness, just going underneath, of course we're going to go out there and try to look around. But I forget the statistic on or the time frame. But once the body goes subsurface, they drop pretty quick to the bottom. So chances of us getting them, recovering them once they go subsurface is very low, unless it's a very shallow body of water. So their age, obviously submersion time, water temperature, their struggle, their injuries, illness, quality of the CPR if we're doing it, and the water quality, you know, because you got to think they go subsurface, they're bringing in all that nasty Mitch Pond water. I mean, if they survive, they're going to be pneumonia and all that. So just things to consider. But that's long term, obviously. We're just getting out, making a quick grab. So having that plan, preparing for, you know, this is all what we've been talking about. So our equipment is one thing I have noticed too. Pre-rigged equipment. A lot of people have the rigging set up differently. On the board, I've looked at a couple different boards, and it's the rope is not in properly. You know, everybody kind of just, oh, I think it goes like this, so I'll just do it this way. So we got to be careful on that. And you know, if you don't know, just ask. Reach out to Dom or I or anybody else that knows for sure how it's supposed to be rigged. So, you know, and be familiar with it. We've all been guilty of, like, especially engineers, you go to check to make sure equipment's there, you open the compartment and you see it, you know, and you're like, oh, it's there, and then close it up. Like, remember, make sure, like I said, I'm guilty of it, first admit, but pull it out, make sure you're familiar with it, because these are the type of situations that, you know, are low frequency, high risk. It's a very, very rare call, but when you pull it out, make sure you at least know how to get that sling ready and all that, because, you know, because of the way it's pulled through the rings and you're not familiar with it, and you know, you're fighting it. So let's be pros. So we have the board and the sling. We have the option to take the board off and just use the sling. I'm a board guy. Dom and I got certified in Greeley, Colorado, and you know, we did all different types of rescues, board versus sling and all that. And the board is the way to go, especially in our ice that's very weak here. It's breaking apart. pulling them out of the water onto that ice shelf. If that ice shelf holds up, you know, like just that initial, just to not break the ribs as you pull them onto that shelf, that board is a huge help. And then if that ice is giving away as the haul team is pulling them in, you know, it's saving a lot of energy on and injury to the rescuer and victim. So I'm a big board guy. So as you see, these are the Mustang suits that they're using here. Like I said, we have all new Mustang suits. We still do have our Sterns, which we will be using for training. But Dom and I were talking. We'll use our Sterns for the most part of the training, but we will also get into our Mustang suits just so you guys are familiar with them, since that's what we will be using in the rescue. They are fantastic. They're easy to use, easy to clean. We have one size. I forget the exact dimensions, but it'll hold anybody from Sammy up to Guy Sells. Or I don't know about our brand new guy that we just fired, who's 6'10", but I don't know if they'll fit. But the suits have a wide variety. So much better than our Stern. It's night and day different. So you guys will get in them and feel them. We'll do an ice day here soon, but yeah. Almost everybody like that in our class in Colorado was using the Mustangs. The only people who weren't were the Canadians, but they deal with a lot of river stuff. So their suits are designed for swift and ice. So that's why they chose that route. They have really cool suits, but the Mustangs perfect for what we do. As you can see, the different suits here. It's we had the Sterns, the middle one. The Sterns was actually made originally for like fishing vessels, and when Dom and I brought our Stern suit out in Colorado, the instructors were like, "Wow, we haven't seen those." They stopped making those, and yeah, so we were definitely weak in the suit arena, but now our game has stepped up. So. Very simple, and we'll go over all this, but you just have your two rings in the front, and you're just attaching your rope. It's a figure 8, and that's what you're getting attached to, and then we'll go more into that. But fully suited, multiple rescue operation, immediate availability of rescue tools. So some of the things we have: the ice picks, the crampons. The crampons are the feet for your feet. Fins, ankle weights, lights, whistles, others. So we have the fins. Personally, I don't, unless you have a lot of open water. If you see a lot of open water, fins might be a good idea. But otherwise, I'm not a big fin. They do help propelling that victim out of the water onto the ice shelf. But if we're utilizing the board, then my opinion is we don't need them. Ankle weights, we don't need them. These suits, they are very buoyant, but you know, for how quick we're moving, and they're not necessary. Lights are something I do want to look into getting, like a glow light or something, just for the rescuer in case we do have a night operation. But that'll be down the road. Whistles, the new suits, I believe we have only ice picks on them.
They are built in. I see. The ice picks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we put those in, but I don't believe we have whistles anymore. Our old Sterns did, but so just familiarize yourself with the suit. And so remember, the types of rescue is self-rescue, reach, throw, go. So your reach devices, you know, Mitch Pond does have a ring out there, a swimmer's ring, so something you can throw at them. But obviously, we're going to be at the point where we're prepared to go. Reaching, something with reaching. I see some literature out there using ladders to reach somebody. Ladders are a bad idea. They're heavy. They could break the ice. That victim might be hanging onto an ice shelf, and you drop a ladder out there in front of them, and that ice shelf breaks what they were holding on to, and now they're going subsurface because you just destroyed their only shelf, their only chance of hanging on with a ladder. Also, ladders are very dangerous for for rescuers, it could grab our rope. If it breaks and goes subsurface, it takes our rope under, which therefore takes us under. There's ice, kind of backtracking, ice rescue started from Convict Lake, I believe is, yeah, out by Mammoth. And I forget the year, I want to say it was in the 80s, maybe the early 90s. I think it was the 80s. But anyways, some kids from a youth camp went out on Convict Lake and they were playing. Ice broke. They went through. Counselors went out. They went through. Volunteer fire showed up. They went through. It ended up being a mass casualty incident. I think seven individuals died. It was a huge ordeal, and that's kind of how ice rescue began. So there's a book on it, and you can Google it. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it and all that, but it's a really crazy story. And they were using ladders and all that, and they were in turnouts, not proper PPE, and just it was a disaster. I think it was 3 or 4 firefighters that ended up dying, but yeah, big ordeal. So just think of your reaching devices, more like a pipe or just some type of long tool, and our rope bag, and ice screws. We're not going to get into. That's more thicker ice, lake ice. So our rescue slings, our rescue boards, and that's about what we got for ice rescue game. So just looking at this guy, he's got a PFD. So remember our policy: within 10 feet of shoreline, you're in a PFD. Absolutely no turnouts within that 10 feet. So the hall guys, PFDs, make sure wear gloves, be warm if possible. But yeah, so anybody within 10 feet must be in a PFD and no turnouts. Absolutely no turnouts. I don't know if this goes into it, but we got a 90% rescuer. That's something I also want to add to our policy. But dive rescue is big on having a 90% ready rescuer. So all that means is that you have a backup. You have a secondary rescuer who's suited up, ready to go in case anything were to happen to rescuer number 1 or multiple victims and, report of another victim or whatever the case is. So a 90% rescuer, I want to get that language added.
We'd have to have a second engine.
Yeah, we have 2 engines and we
have.
have TC.
Okay.
So we're going to have 3 suits there. So, and a 90% rescuer, I mean, in my opinion, they should be completely suited and ready, but it's just saying they are 90% dressed. So essentially maybe zipped up to here and not have their hood on, all they have to do is put their hood on, zip it up, and they're ready to go. But they're rigged with the rope and everything. They're ready. So the same approach, simple step-by-step approach, always have a backup, never take chances, eliminate the PTIs. We don't use the same, but. So, and we're gonna watch a video from Aurora Fire, they adopted dive rescue plan, and Aurora Fire put out like a 15-minute video, and we'll watch that close to the end here, and it's exactly what we do for the most part. There's a small change that they do on Slack, and we'll go into that, and it's something we're going to implement for a hand signal, but yeah, it'll go over all this. But contact the captain's making a plan, however they want to run it, but somebody's making contact with the victim. Captain's probably making the plan and talking to the witnesses or whoever else is there. Say the engineer's making the first contact from the shore while the rescuer's getting ready to make his way out. So, you're determining what their level of consciousness by contacting them, having a conversation. Are they able to converse back, or no, they're not responding to me, so they're towards that mild severe stage of hypothermia, and If we don't get out there quick, then they're gonna go subsurface and this is gonna be a body recovery. So, hey, what's your name? Are you hurt? How many people are with you? Are you alone? Okay, we're coming out. Stay facing me. Hold on to that shelf, just talk to them. And, you were there because the ice is unsafe. Don't become another victim. I find it very difficult for us to become a victim with the suits that we have and just so, just having your plan and your backup plan. Don't plan any harder. So self-rescue, reach, throw, go. So different techniques with the picks. We have the videos. We'll go over this. This is for us. I mean, I doubt any kid that falls through Mitch Pond is going to have ice picks on them. So I'll come back to these videos. I know these videos aren't going to work on this PowerPoint, but we'll go over them. So example of a reaching device. So obviously they're still in that mild phase of hypothermia. And they have some dexterity. They're able to reach out and grab. Remember when you're throwing the bag on the throw bags, throw through them, over and through them. Don't just throw it right at them. Last thing you want to do is throw it at them. The bag slides, whacks them in the face, and then pushes them in the water. So throw over and through them, and then you'll instruct them to wrap the rope around their arm. So you can have the victim wrap the rope at least 3 times around his or her forearm, if able to. So here's a sling only, less constricting on the victim's chest than a rope alone. Will secure victims of various sizes, easier to handle than floating rope. We'll go over all these videos later. So then there's the board. We'll talk about sliding the board in front of them so they can grab onto it. And then you're coming in behind them, wrapping them with the sling, connecting, raising that sling up underneath their armpits. And then you're giving your proper hand signals to your hull team to pull slack. And then on go, when you get the go signal, you are assisting the patient's legs, grabbing underneath their knees and kicking upwards as you push the victim. And as the hull team pulls, you will remove the victim from the water onto the ice shelf and board. We'll go more into that. The board can use with all victims, can traverse open water, provides protection for your victim. That's the big one for me. You can use with all victims, yes, but can all victims have their dexterity? What phase of hypothermia? We keep going back to that. Do they have dexterity to hold on to that board? Or are you just essentially pushing them up against that board and you're grabbing onto the board and squeezing them almost like a ladder rescue, pushing their body up against that because they are unconscious or they don't have any dexterity. So here's the backup rescuer dressed and ready to assist the primary rescuer. So when available, prepare an additional 90% rescue. All these fancy ice rescue mechanisms, which we will never have and we don't need here in the valley. So here's, multiple victims, currents, the night ops, extreme distance from the shore, contaminated water. So we hit several of those, right? So hand signals, like I said, the Aurora video that we will watch does all of the hand videos. It goes in depth in that. Most of you in Queensland, you can't see me, but the universal, the stop sign, arm at a 90-degree angle with a closed fist, that is stop. Anytime the rescuer presents that, the hull team will stop their operation. If you tap your head with an open palm, that means slack. So this will be when the rescuer is in the water. They put the board or the sling around the victim. They are secure. They move the sling up underneath the victim's armpits. Before they are ready to get pulled out of the ice by the haul team, they will give the signal to the haul team by tapping their head, hey, pull slack. That is going to be an addition to our policy. That's something we haven't done before, but it's something we will add. So there's 3 hand signals: the stop, the slack, and then the go. And the go is the arm at 90 degrees, and you're on from your head out, it's go. So they're all very distinct from each other. So I think that's it for the PowerPoint. I have some videos. So first we'll just watch Aurora's video. It's 16 minutes, but this is exactly what we will be doing. So can you guys on Teams see this?
Yes.
Cool.
No sound.
This is gonna be our annual refresh
You don't have sound?
Oh, it just popped up.
video to help us refresh our memory on how to perform the tactics of an ice rescue, also to go over the equipment and the terminology. I hope you enjoy the video.
So somebody establishing shore contact, sending the rescuer out. This is a sling rescue only. So he's starting to get close. He gets down on all fours, making his way out so he doesn't fall and become unconscious. So something I didn't mention here, but this victim is conscious. He's able to respond. He's yelling help. They're frantic at this point. Hypothermia is starting to set in. This is the type of victim that you're worried about them fighting. They will do anything to get out of that water, and they're still with it enough that they could, start throwing elbows and not purposely, obviously, trying to take you under, but that's kind of what can happen. So if you notice, this rescuer is coming at him, and as he's coming at him, he sweeps to the side to go around and come behind. So there's the method of approaching straight on and getting in the water with them directly in front of them. That's going to be more for the more critical patient who's not really responsive in that moderate to severe range of hypothermia, where you're not worried as much as them just popping you in the face if you come out at him. This guy, very with it, moving around on the ice. You want to sweep around him so that way he's not going to see you coming. As you're sweeping around him, you're telling him, look at the shore. Keep looking at the shore. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. That way you have a better chance of preventing them from turning around and trying to swim to you and take you under. So. See, these suits are so buoyant, hard for him to get his feet under. The go and the stop signal. He pulls them out. He rolls them onto himself to have him drag them the rest of the way to prevent further injury to the victim. With the boards, we won't have to do this because we'll be on the board to protect them.
Let's get started. So one of the most important things for us to do is to communicate with dispatch. When we get toned to a call of an ice rescue, we want to communicate with dispatch and find out more information. Whether it be a single person that has fallen through the ice or a dog, it's important for us to address dispatch again, gather more information, because at any point in time, the call can change from the initial dispatch to the time you show up on scene. That may be that one patient falls through and by the time you get on scene, there's 2 or 3 patients. Maybe it's a dog and that's what we get toned to, but by the time we get on scene, the owner went out on the ice to get the dog and then they fell through. And now we have a little bit of a bigger call. These are important questions to figure out because it determines what rigs need to come on this assignment. If it's a person who's fallen through the ice, we may need dive team. And we're also going to need additional resources, more ice rescue rigs, maybe even the TRT team. If it's a dog that falls through the ice, it's important for us to know that there is a good chance that the owner is going to follow them out. And if the owner does follow them out and fall through, we now need to up the resources because we now have a dog rescue and a human rescue. So let's talk about the initial scene size. If this is our call and we arrive here to this lake, obviously the water is freezing cold. The person that we're rescuing is not going to have a lot of time to hold themselves above the ice shelf before they get so cold that they lose motor function. They'll become hypothermic and either stop communicating or lose grip of that ice shelf and potentially go under. So we need to be fast, efficient when it comes to these types of rescue. When we get the call at the station, our best bet is to probably get in our Mustang suits, get fully dressed up prior to leaving for the call. When we get on scene, we need to be able to find the rope bags, find the equipment we need, get down to the shoreline as fast as possible, and start the evolution so we can have the best outcome.
Okay, so a couple of things that he brought up. Domestic animals. Anybody know our policy on domestic animals as far as ice rescue related? So it'll be the IC's discretion. So the BC will make that call. Are we gonna go in for a dog? I think we will. Horse? Hell. No,
Push their head.
we could use less horses.
Yeah.
But for a dog, you betcha. I would bet all of our VCs would say yes. Get the approval for that because it's a very poor look. Everybody's filming now, and somebody's beloved lab is in the water and can't get out. And it just looks real crummy on our part if we're all standing on the shore watching that dog drown. And if we're not doing anything, high chance, as he said, the owner will be going out. It's like, well, screw you guys. You're not doing anything. I'm gonna go get it. Now you have a real issue. So that, and there was one other thing that he brought up that. Oh, and getting ready. So I know our past practice is having the firemen donning the suit as we are en route to the call. I just recently had one of our captains say, you know, what about having the suit and the firemen jumping in the back of the rescue? Since the rescue is going to be the one getting as close to the scene as possible anyways, it's heated back there, everything. And, you know, per NRS and stuff, that person doesn't have to be belted, you know. I mean, we have to be belted at all times if possible. But, you know, if anything were to happen in an engine response and that fireman were to get hurt because he wasn't belted donning a suit, there's going to be issues. So just something to think about. He brought it to my attention. I was like, oh, I never really thought about that. And especially if it's like super snowy and the engine can't make it out there, the rescue's, you know, lighter, 4-wheel drive, it can go further. So something to consider. So obviously as a at the water tech group, we have some things to discuss, but just some food for thought.
We get down to the shoreline and we're ready to do our rescue. It's important for somebody to make contact with that patient. We want to get a level of consciousness right away. We also want to ask them if they are awake and alert, if they were the only people that went through on the ice. If they are unable to talk to us, then we need to use other means to figure out that information. Either look for footsteps on the ice or the snowbank, use bystanders and ask them if they saw how many people went through the ice. This is important because, again, the more people we have through the ice, the more rescue teams we need. And if anybody went under the ice, we need the dive team to keep this rescue. When we are down by the ice, we're fully zipped up. Remember, we need a backup team. Remember that the rescuer that's getting ready to go into the water or the ice is fully suited up and has had a safety check. When I refer to a safety check, that means that that rescuer zipper has been inspected and fully zipped up and closed. It also means that your carabiner is locked into the D-ring on your harness, that your harness is underneath your armpits and not over your arms. It's also important for somebody to check and make sure that the ghost lane is set up correctly for the rescuer and that the carabiner is locked in on the rescuer. These are important steps to do before we start making our way out onto the ice. When we're down by the shore, another important thing to know is that we all need to be in appropriate PPE. The rescuers need to be in their Mustang suits. All other personnel need to be in an absolute minimum a PFD. If you do not have a PFD on, then you should be the furthest away from the shoreline. It is also very important to note that no bunker gear should be worn down by the ice or by any open water ever. Okay, awesome. Let's move on to terminology and hand signals. This is important for us to be on the same page when we arrive on scene. So understanding this terminology makes things run and operate a lot smoother. So let's go over shore support. Shore support consists of several different things within itself. We have incident command for any commanding officer. We also have the safety officer, call team, and we have runners. The runners would be people that may not be ice rescue certified, but are taking equipment from the engine and ladder trucks and bringing them down to the shore. Our call team is important, although it works through the shore support. They are the ones specifically responsible for pulling the patient and the victim back into shore when they're ready. We also have a rescue team. The rescue team consists of whoever is going to be backup or primary rescuer. The primary rescuer is going to be fully dressed up. The backup rescuer will be at 90% at a minimum. Those are people part of the rescue team. Next, I want to cover hand signals. Hand signals are important because this is the way that the rescuer will communicate back to the haul team or shore support, letting them know what they need done. The first thing we'll cover is taking up slack. Take up slack is a fist on the top of your head and bouncing it up.
I think that's a little bit long, so, yes.
The next one we'll go over is hauling. When we're ready to be hauled into shore and take the patient and ourselves up over the ice shelf, we want to use the indication for hauling. That's going to be hand wide open, 90 degrees, and extension. This is indicating to the haul team that you're ready to be pulled into shore. The final hand signal we want to cover is to stop. That is going to be 90 degrees at your elbow with a fist. That's the indication for the haul team to now stop their operation and let the rescuer fix whatever they need to fix. All right, so we just covered getting the tones at the station to getting on scene. The things that we're looking to do quickly, efficiently, so we can get the job done fast and safely. Now let's get into the tactical parts on how we're going to actually perform the rescue. So remember our sequence. We're going to self-rescue. We're going to reach. We're going to throw. And then we're going to go. So it's important for us to know how to actually rescue ourselves from the ice so we can teach that to the patients or victims that are in the water on the ice shelf. As you can see in this video, it's important to use your elbows. Try to drive your elbows into the ice shelf. Kick, get your hips up on the ice, and the second your hips are up, you want to roll off of the ice shelf. This other part of the video leads right into using your pickles. Some people that are on the ice may have that have fallen through. It also could be for yourself. It's important that we know how to use those as well. The only difference is now instead of using your elbows, you're going to use the pickles to jam those into the ice. Using your biceps to pull yourself up onto the ice shelf. Once your hips have made it over that edge, same thing applies. You want to roll off of that ice ledge to get yourself onto thicker ice. All right, let's go over right side and go rescue. We're going to take the average part of the scene.
Please.
As you get up, when we're ready to enter into the water, we want to lead with our feet first. Once we're in the water, we now want to take the sling, wrap it underneath the patient's arms, putting the large carabiner back onto the sling. We want to try to center that carabiner up with their chest and hike the sling up as high as you can into the armpit area. At this point in time, you can call for the haul team to take up slack. Before you come into shore, you want to make sure that you grab the patient's legs, bring them back behind them from underneath the ice shelf as high as you can to the surface of the water. At that point in time, you can call for the haul team to take you into shore.
So see, he has that beaner in his right hand and he's approaching the right side of the victim. If you're approaching the left side, you kind of get to your left hand.
Okay, moving right along. Let's do a left-sided go rescue. The only difference now is that we're going to be approaching on the left side of the patient. So now we need to place that large carabiner in our left hand and the other end of the sling into our right hand. Same thing applies as we walk out to the left side. We're just going to get really low to the ice, crawling on all fours and then leading into the water with our feet first. We're going to wrap the sling around the patient, center up that large carabiner again, and pull that up as high into the armpits as possible. And again, we can take up slack at this point in time. Grab their legs, pull their legs back underneath the ice shelf to the surface of the water, and then tell the whole team you're ready to come in ashore. Let's talk about the rescue board. Now we use this in our evolution. We have to set this up on scene at the shoreline. You'll want to grab the board as you see in this video and stand it upright. You have 3 rings. You need to take the large carabiner and feed that through all 3 rings by opening the carabiner up, allowing the ring to slide through, and then moving on to the next ring. Well, once they're pulled all the way through, then you're ready to attach that system back to your harness. Grab your ghost link and grab the board and perform your rescue. Now that you have the rescue board and the sling attached to your harness, you're going to make your way out on the ice. You're still going to stay low to the ice as you approach the patient or the victim. As you can see in this video, you're going to slide the board up to them. Once they have a hold of it, you're going to make it to either the right or the left side. Again, staying low and entering your feet first. You're going to make your ghost sling attachment the same as you do, whether you do it right or left. You'll place the large carabiner around onto the sling, centering that onto their chest, and hiking that up as high into the armpit as you can. When you go to tell them to take up slack, it's important that you feed the knots all the way through all 3 D-rings before you haul into shore. So this part of the video is going to show you how we can take the board and use it as a mechanical advantage. You're going to enter the ice as you would always do for a rescue, but you're going to stop about 20 feet back. You want to give yourself enough rope on the back side of the rings and enough rope on the front side of the rings, so when you slide the board up there, it does not get hung up. Once the patient grabs a hold of the board, you then want to position yourself in line with the haul team. It's the same hand signals. When you give them the haul signal, they'll pull the patient up over the ice ledge and along the ice, meeting up with you. Once they meet up with you, that is your time to jump onto the board with the patient and make sure that they don't fall off and ride all the way into shore. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the video. I just want to remind you.
Any questions on that? Pretty simple. We'll be, like I said, we'll be practicing our skills, getting in the water, practicing the sling and the board method, and the sliding the board, both board methods. Once we get good sustainable ice that we can go train on, and we'll get all 3 ships out there. So I'm just going to show a couple videos of some ice incidents. The rescuer's getting suited up. That's the 90% rescuer, it looks like. Looks like we got rescuer number 1 already out there. So right here is a good example of the haul team having communications amongst themselves. What type of haul are we doing? What type of surface conditions or shore conditions are suitable? Are we going to be holding on to the rope and walking backward as a unit? Or are we doing the hand over hand method? What's going to be the most advantageous for us as the haul team in this position? So that's something you guys have to discuss amongst yourselves in that situation. So you're all on the same page. We're good. I got a rope right there. Where's the rest? Here's mine. So, not how it's supposed to go. They're using a rope bag. I mean, I guess use whatever you can, but. Now they're tying rope bags together. So for us, obviously, 90% rescuer will be utilizing the other rope bag, other sling bag.
I have a question, Rylan.
Sure.
Do you know whether or not our deputies have had a little training from search and rescue, the line deputies, about how to be a hall member? Because I mean, I can see this scenario playing out in our world with a bunch of cops.
Yeah, great question, Adam. I have no idea what level they've been trained with this, and I bet what we're seeing is about exactly what we would get. So hopefully, in a perfect world with our 2-engine, 2-rescue TCPC response, we could keep the deputies out of it and they could do more of a scene management with bystanders or other looky-loos. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like this is a great example of what we would actually get, because, you know, everybody wanting to help, and who knows, I'm sure it's various training from some people knowing how to do it and a lot of them not knowing how to do it. So, good question. That is something I will try to find out. And look, nobody's in PFDs. I mean, the deputies don't have PFDs, but I mean, they're in weighted vests, and if one of those deputies were to go in, it just could be very disastrous. And it's hard to tell, why is that second rescuer needed? Why was he called in? It's hard to tell, but. So anyways, not to just armchair quarterback these guys, they did a successful rescue. The job was done. Obviously, you're going to do anything you can to get the job done, but you could just see how messy it was. Did it work? Yes. Was there potential for catastrophe? Absolutely. But you risk a lot to save a lot, right? So, I mean, overall, these guys did a good job. They made the rescue, but things could go a lot smoother with proper training, proper equipment, and all of that. This is a firefighter fatality in a training in Canada. And
Sandwiched in between fast-flowing, crushing ice are firefighters David Dobson in the red suit and Gary Kendall in the black suit. You can see the ice flips Kendall over. His head disappears below as the camera looks away. And then 3 seconds later, this video was shown for the first time today, while the rest of her family decided to leave the courtroom while the video was played. Daughter Marissa Kendall made the difficult decision to stay.
It was the last time he was alive. I wanted to see him one more time.
The man behind the camera was Dan Wells. The Sarnia firefighter was invited to participate and film the exercise to share with his own department. He filmed the group on the shore getting ready in the water and climbing onto the ice floe, and captured those last moments of Kendall's life. I could see that he was struggling. He was obviously fatigued. Eventually, the solid ice overcomes him. Nell said Kendall disappeared under the ice and then reappeared 3 minutes later. They got him out of the water and attempted to revive him. Among other things, Nels questions why there was no rapid intervention team on the shore to jump into rescue mode.
So we've heard that safety equipment wasn't readily available, that the defibrillator wasn't readily available. That stuff needs to be there.
We also heard from David Dobson, the other man clearly struggling alongside Kendall that day. Dobson described how they were told to swim out into the water and get on the ice, and how he couldn't get himself up. Trying to save himself from being crushed, he said he kept breaking the ice coming at him. He said Kendall was doing the same thing, And the last thing he remembers him saying, this isn't good.
Both of the firefighters today have said that Terry Harrison was
So thank goodness we don't have ice like that, big river ice, so not the most dangerous thing to do. This is a really crazy video, just so many things go on here. The kids sledding into the water.
That's seriously not even funny. No.
And here goes the cascade.
You guys, you need a rope from under there. No, under there. It's okay. I think he's gonna be okay.
I mean, just picture showing up to this, you got 15 people on the ice, at least three people in the water, I mean, just complete chaos.
I think it's a. Ask him if he's okay. See, why isn't he getting up? He's. He's got more energy at least to get him going. Throw the rope out. Awesome. Pull him in. Oh my.
So I don't know the outcome of this. I don't know if there's any fatalities, if everybody got out. But yeah, just a kind of an eye-opening video. Are you guys all just seeing the our equipment there on the table?
Yeah, we got it. We see it up at 12.
It's the quad screen.
Yes.
Okay. You. I'm just listening to Graham. He's
Yeah.
giving me a. All right, any questions on anything we've covered thus far?
Hey, just to confirm, the hand signals are what we watched in the video. I know you're describing them, but there was no video to go with it.
Yes, so the Aurora video, what they demonstrated there is what we would like to adopt. Nothing is official until our policy comes out. But so that's got to go through our water rescue, that group. But that's what we will be proposing, is getting that implemented on the 90-degree fist close is a stop signal. The slack signal is 90 degrees out, and then tapping the head with a fist, and then the 90-degree open hand from the top of the head out extension, extending your arm out. That is the go. So those are the
Copy.
3 hand signals. All right, so just, we're all pretty familiar, we should be familiar with our equipment here. We have the 200 feet of rope. We have our sling and we have our board. How these are configured on every apparatus is a little different. I would like to see it universal. This is not, this is something that's open for discussion amongst the water rescue team. So we'll decide on the way how we like to store this, but I just have it right now stored with a large feeder on the bottom ring here, and the rescuer beaner both attached to this one down here. So all you would do if you're going out, you're hooking this to your suit, and then if I'm coming at the patient from the right hand side, you want to open it and then approach like this. Remember, you're getting out on the ice. Walk if you can. If it's unstable, you're going to be getting low on all fours, crawling. Then you'll be sliding the board in. And as you saw in the videos, they demonstrated well on placing the board in front of them, coming around them, wrapping them, connecting your large carabiner, sliding this up underneath the armpits. So this is pull their slack. So slack is pulled. You get situated on the board, victim in front of you, you behind them, and then your go signal. That will tell the haul team to start pulling you in. This is just really quick overview on that because we just watched the video and we will be actually going out on the ice on a skills day and doing all this. So, and then remember, if you're pulling the sling out, if you're not utilizing the board, just pull the sling out. You're going to have to open this and pull it through all the rings. And that way, like especially the 90% rescuer, since all of our equipment is pre-rigged with the board, that 90% rescuer, get that board out of there. So just use that sling. We went over the fins. We just talked about them, but like I said, personally, I'm not a fan unless there's a ton of open water between you and the victim. You know, on the skills day, use them, don't use them, do both, see what you like. I just think, especially if you're from the shore, you know, we all have been in fins, you're walking kind of awkward, and it's harder to get out quickly if you got ice to the victim. It's good for open water, but. And then our new suits. So today, if you can, familiarize with your suits. If you haven't done it already, the suits are rolled up in the bags. I said this is a one size fits all. So you'll just be donning your suit. Zipping up, make sure when you zip, you are using your T handle and you're pulling up. And when you get about to your nipple line, you're going to want to kind of lean back a little bit and pull up in order to get that the last part zipped up, or have your partner assist you because it gets kind of difficult in the neck region. And then to burp your suit, on the sterns, we used to have like a burp valve you could pull and then squat. we'll just be utilizing the T on the zipper, kind of pulling it out, and same thing, squat, bring your arms in, and burp all that air out. Because you want to be the least buoyant as you can, because these things, they float, and they float well. So once you get them on, you can tighten up your legs, and then you'll be securing this, and then your ghost sling carabiner will be attaching to this. Pretty basic. We have wax in the bags as well. We'll leave wax in these after each water use. So that's it. Any questions on that? Oh, yeah. So we have our picks in here, just like the stern suits. If you open these up, these are tied in, and you roll these out, and you can utilize your picks. And that's more of if you go in and you're having difficulty getting to the patient, ice is breaking away, it's hard to get through that thin ice that just keeps breaking every time you put pressure. So a good option is to use those picks and just to start crawling through. They do make quite a bit of a difference. And then when putting these away, bring the arms in, and then you'll start at the feet and then roll up to the head to put them away. So we roll them, but make sure, like I said, on the skills day, we'll go over all this a little more in depth, but we got to let these dry out. You want to rinse them off after, especially Mitch Pond, just how contaminated the water is. Clean these things out. So we'll go more into the suits on skills day, but that's just the basic overview of our equipment for now.
I know for probably just like a true incident, we might not do it, but for training, when you have like multiple guys on the suits, are guys wearing medical gloves to keep the sweat down in the hands?
Yeah, thank you. Good point.
I know rescue mode, obviously, if you have them, if you don't, it's okay. You're just the one person going in and getting. But when we do our training, do we want to wear?
Yeah, training days, we will absolutely be using our gloves as we did with the sterns. You just know your hands get sweaty. And the stern suits, they also had leaks all over the place. So you're getting that nasty water in there. But these don't have any leaks yet. Hopefully they won't. They're much more durable. But yeah, utilizing medical gloves just helps prevent the stench and all that. So we'll be doing that.